More often than not, your home doesn't need a full makeover to feel fresh again. It just needs a few thoughtful changes in the right places. Today, I'm giving parts of my home a cosy spring refresh, starting with the fireplace mantle and then moving on to a few other corners around the house that are just ready for a bit of a lift after winter. I'm simply switching out a few decor accents, adjusting the styling, and bringing in pieces that feel lighter and a bit more seasonal. And what surprised me is just how much these small changes actually transform the way the whole space feels. So if your home is feeling a bit stuck in winter mode, let me show you a few easy styling tricks that can make a real difference. Let's start with the fireplace mantle because this is really the heart of the room. Now, although this is my winter mantle, it isn't the one I had for Christmas. After Christmas, I removed the red berries and some of the more festive touches and left all the greenery and the softer gold accents to carry the display through the rest of the winter. And that version has worked beautifully for the last couple of months. But now that spring is on the way, I'm definitely ready for something a little fresher. Before I start styling, I always like to have a rough idea of the direction I'm going in. For the spring version of this mantle, I still wanted it to feel cosy and layered, but just a little lighter for the new season. And I'm building this display around a set of witch hazel stems that I spotted recently at Dunelm. As soon as I saw them, I thought they would work beautifully stretched along the mantle. But before any of that can happen, everything needs to come down so that I can start with a completely clean surface. And I have to say, this part is always strangely satisfying. It's also the moment when you realise just how many pieces had found their way into the display. And once everything is cleared away, I like to give the mantle a quick clean before I start putting anything back. And the starting point for me is these witch hazel stems. Rather than putting them in a vase, I'm laying them flat along the mantle so they stretch right across it. It gives the arrangement a slightly more unexpected feel, just a different way of using stems. And because most artificial stems like these are wired, it makes it very easy just to shape them a little. So the parts that overhang the mantle can be gently bent and moulded so that they drape down naturally. That little bit of shaping helps them look much softer and more relaxed rather than just sitting rigidly on the surface. Once the branches are in place, I start bringing back a few of the pieces from my winter display. And this is something I often do when I'm refreshing a space for a new season. You really don't have to change everything to make a display feel completely different. Keeping a few familiar elements and just building around them can often work beautifully. And in this case, I'm bringing back those black candlesticks. They just add a little height and contrast against the greenery, and they help anchor the whole arrangement. I'm also refreshing the candles themselves. These are faux candles and I particularly like using them on a mantle because they're on a timer. Once they're switched on, they'll automatically come on at the same time each evening and stay on for a set number of hours. So you still get that lovely warm candlelight in the evenings, but you don't have to think about turning them on or off. And the batteries actually last a surprisingly long time. In the centre of the mantle, I've added these differently sized moss balls. They bring a little softness and a touch of natural texture, and they create a gentle focal point right in the middle of the display. From there, I start layering in some greenery. These trailing pine stems are from Dunelm, and I actually spotted them while I was there filming for another video and remembered that I already owned some. They're lovely because they have a slightly trailing shape, which adds movement and texture to the display, and they tuck in very easily around the branches and the candlesticks. At this point, the arrangement is really starting to come together. But there's one final layer that I like to add. Even though this is now a spring display, I still want the mantle to feel cosy in the evenings. So I'm weaving the twinkle lights from my winter display back through the branches. I usually keep these here until the clocks change at the end of April. And while the evenings are still getting dark relatively early, that soft glow just adds a lovely warmth to the room. And once the nights start getting lighter, I can always take them out. Once the mantle was finished, I carried that same spring, fresh feeling across to the little surface beside the fireplace. I started with this vase and added a few simple spring stems, just something light and natural that ties in with the branches on the mantle. Then I added this little bunny ornament. It's a subtle little nod to the season without feeling overly themed. And finally, this small dish with some natural coloured eggs, which just adds another little gentle touch of spring. I also wanted to lighten up the textiles in this corner a little bit. So the first thing to go was the faux fur throw from the snug chair. It's been lovely through the winter months, but it definitely felt time for something just a little bit lighter. I also swapped out the cushion cover, replacing the winter texture with this moss green cushion instead. Finally, I changed the throw on the ottoman. The winter check had a lovely cosy feel, but I replaced it with this moss green throw instead, and that just really helps pull the whole look together. But before we leave this room completely, there was one little surface I wanted to refresh as well. This glass console table had been styled for winter with some darker wintry stems and a winter print leaning against the wall. So the first thing I did was swap out the stems for something a little lighter and more spring-like, and that one simple change immediately lifts the whole look. On the other side of the table, I've always had what looks like a little lamp, but it's actually a very simple styling trick. The base is just a glass candlestick with a textured glass vase container sitting on top, and inside that I just tuck a set of twinkle lights. When they're switched on, it gives the effect of a softly glowing lamp. So for spring, I decided to recreate the same idea just in a slightly different way. This time I'm using a white candlestick from IKEA with this little lantern from IKEA sitting on top. The twinkle lights go back inside the lantern, so you get the same soft glow but with a lighter, more spring-like feel. At the base of the vase, I added this white concrete lantern. It holds a small tea light and it just adds another little layer of warmth to the display. And finally, I placed this little small spring ornament on the other side. It's a little glass jar with some yellow stems, and then I added a moss green bunny. The moss green just ties in nicely with the other touches of green around the room, and altogether it just gives this little corner a much fresher seasonal feel. But there were a few other spots around the house that I wanted to refresh as well. So before we take a proper look at how everything turned out in here, let me show you a couple of the other small changes I made elsewhere. Starting with this little corner of my kitchen, which was very much still in winter mode. And again, just like the fireplace, this wasn't actually how the shelf looked back at Christmas. After Christmas, I made a few small tweaks so that it would carry through the rest of the winter. But now it felt ready for a few simple swaps to bring in a more spring-like feel. The first change was replacing the pine stems with some simple green foliage. Just that one change immediately softens the look. Next, I swapped out the two ceramic pine cones for this little ceramic bunny. It's a similar size and shape, but it gives just a gentle nod to the new season. I also changed out the books. The winter titles made way for a couple that simply feel a bit lighter in colour. They're not specifically spring books, but sometimes it's the colours that just help shift the whole feeling of a space. And finally, I replaced that winter print with a spring quote, and with just a few simple swaps, the whole little shelf area starts to feel much more in tune with the new season. And if you're enjoying this video and picking up a few ideas and a little inspiration along the way, I'd love for you to join me more regularly here in this little corner of YouTube. This channel is all about helping you thrive in your third chapter of life and creating a home that feels like a haven while you do it. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Another little spot I wanted to refresh was the centre of the coffee table. Through the winter I had this large glass bowl here with a faux candle and some pine cones, but for spring I decided to switch things up slightly and create a small display using a tray instead. Using a tray like this is a really helpful styling trick because it allows you to gather a few items together and give them a sense of structure. It stops the coffee table from feeling cluttered while still letting you add a few decorative touches. The first piece I added was this small faux plant from IKEA. The pot it comes in is actually a very plain, boring black plastic one, so I like to drop it inside this little tea light holder instead. It's exactly the right size and it instantly just makes the plant feel a little more decorative. Next, I added one of my faux candles, and again, rather than just leaving it on its own, I like to place it inside a glass vase. The glass just gives it a little more height and reflection, and that just keeps it feeling a bit more elevated. After that, I brought in this small white bowl. It's actually a snack bowl, the sort that you might use for nuts, but pieces like this work really well in little displays. So here I filled it with some faux mini eggs, which just give a little nod to the season. At one point, I did take the bowl away and just try a few moss balls instead, but styling a tray like this is often just about playing around with the different pieces, the heights, the shapes, and how everything sits together. So in the end, I decided to keep the moss balls and bring the bowl with the eggs back in as well. And together, they just add a little extra texture and interest to the display. And once everything was gathered together on the tray, it just helps the coffee table feel much more in tune with the season. So now that everything's finished, let's go back and take a look at how that lounge area came together. With the mantle refreshed, the console table restyled, and a few softer seasonal touches added around the space, the whole room starts to feel lighter and just a bit more spring-like. The greenery, the little hints of moss green, and those soft twinkle lights all help keep that cosy feeling, while still bringing in something fresher for the new season. And it's really just a reminder that you don't have to completely redecorate a room to make it feel different. Often it's just a few swaps, changing out a stem here, a cushion there, or restyling a small surface. Those little updates can shift the whole atmosphere of a space. And once the lounge area was refreshed, those little updates in the kitchen and family room, like the coffee table and the small kitchen corner, just help the rest of the home feel more in tune with spring as well. I'd love to know, do you like to make little seasonal changes around your home as the seasons shift? Let me know in the comments what your favourite spring update is. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.